All right, I see lots of names coming through in the chat box. So welcome everyone. Happy March. We are seeing some signs of spring here in Kentucky, and that's always a welcome sight in my book. I'm seeing lots of familiar names too in the chat box. So hello and welcome back everyone. We're glad to have you all joining today. For those of you that are newer to the network, my name is Lesley Graham, Senior Director of Community Impact within Save the Children's U.S. programs. I'm happy to be serving as today's moderator for our Conversation in Action. And we are now a few months into the Rural Library Network conversations, and we hope that everyone continues to find our monthly webinars very beneficial to your work. We recognize that you all, as rural librarians, often have a tall task to pull off with all of the programming and services and supports you offer, with many times limited resources and limited funding. Today, we have a great lineup of presenters and wonderful resource sharing in store. On that note, we ask everyone to go ahead and locate the poll questions that should have appeared on your screen as you logged in. We'd like to just gauge your familiarity and current involvement with the presenting organizations today. So go ahead and answer the poll questions, and we'll be monitoring those as we go. We also wanted to use this time today to point you all towards quite a few different resources that we hope you'll find beneficial and helpful to you as you work with your families and children across your communities. And if you're already familiar with our presenters today, we hope you'll learn about a new resource or two. So now, without further ado, we will move into hearing from our presenters. We'll be starting with First Book, then hear from the American Library Association, and also from the Association for Rural and Small Libraries. So as I said, we have a lot in store. I will also just quickly point you to the chat box. We want to encourage everyone to jump into the conversation today. So the webinar platform, it's a little tricky to engage, and we want to be mindful for background noise and all of those distractions. So we are going to point everyone to the chat box to engage in the dialogue, to ask questions, to provide comments or thoughts throughout the webinar today. We will also have a few specific prompts that we'll post throughout just for you all to respond to, related to the most beneficial resources that you've uncovered or various funding opportunities that you might have come across to support your work. One other quick housekeeping note before we introduce our presenters: we will have a dedicated 10 minutes of question and answers after our presenters share. So please utilize the Q&A feature that's located in your toolbar. There you can ask specific questions that you'd like to have addressed. All right, so we'll first hear from our partners at First Book, with whom Save the Children has partnered with to ensure that children across rural communities are receiving high quality learning resources, books, hands-on learning materials, and more. So Candace Radoski, thanks for joining us today. Please take it away.
Thank you so much, Lesley, and thank you, Save the Children, for including First Book in this conversation today. I'm delighted to be here with the rest of the panelists and all of you in the library community. Thanks for the shout out, Rochelle, in the chat. Great to see someone here familiar with First Book. I don't see the deck, Lesley. How do I get to that view? There we go. So today I'll share a little bit more about First Book, how we work and what resources are available, specifically for rural libraries and communities, but also for any program serving kids in need across the country. First Book was founded 30 years ago. We're a nonprofit social enterprise with a mission to enhance, improve, and further educational equity through access to free and reduced cost educational resources and books for children of all ages. Next slide. We are very proud to be recognized by some of the top organizations that you all are familiar with as well, including receiving awards from the Library of Congress and the National Book Foundation, partnering closely with Campaign for Grade Level Reading and receiving the Jefferson Award. There are national, state, and local organizations that we work with across the country. But below, I just listed a few really key and fabulous partners who we're able to collaborate with to support under-resourced communities and educators serving kids in need. a little bit of an overview of how we work, and I'll dive into each of these components over the next 10 minutes or 9 minutes. First Book is designed to work exclusively with programs serving kids in need. We've built a network of over 500,000 educators across the country, and we use educators very broadly. Any provider, teacher, librarian, caring adult working in a setting where kids are in need for financial or other reasons. So the network is our guiding force in everything we do. Our direct access entry point for First Book and our network is the First Book Marketplace. That's where you'll find thousands of titles for kids of all ages, free books, free resources, as well as deeply discounted materials to help further educational equity. We rely heavily on our research and insights arm. We do multiple surveys, polls, focus groups throughout the year, asking our network, what else do you need? What else can we do to help reduce barriers to education for the kids you serve? And how can we leverage First Book's capacity and capabilities and partnerships to move those needles in every under-resourced community? Oftentimes that leads to accelerator resources, which I'll talk about more. And those get put on the marketplace as free resources to help further understanding and support in communities of need. So in all, we're constantly striving to identify and meet the needs in under-resourced communities, use that information to provide affordable resources or free resources where possible, in hopes of advancing the field for everyone. To date, we have distributed 200 million books over the last 30 years. We think we reach about 5 million children annually, and about 1 in 3 classroom or program serving kids in need. And we're excited about that number. It grows constantly, but we know there's a lot of work to do. When we look at that, what it tells us is that we're not reaching 2 out of 3 programs who could use and benefit from First Book's resources. So to tell you a little bit more about the First Book Network, as I said, it's every educator, provider, caring adult working in a program where kids are in need. That's schools, libraries, faith-based organizations, out of school time, faith-based organizations, early childhood programs, shelters, clinics, food banks, anywhere reaching under-resourced families. We want to make sure that they have access to the same materials and great reading and books that help encourage learning that their peers in more affluent communities have access to. Our network of over 510,000 now spans all 50 states and territories. And we're really excited that on average, about 1,000 new members join each week, thanks in part to wonderful opportunities like this, where we get to kind of spread the good word and share more information with large networks through amazing partners like Save the Children. So really the power of the First Book Network is aggregating the collective strength and purchasing power, as well as the voice of educators serving kids in need. We are the fastest growing and largest network of educators who exclusively serve kids in need. We leverage this purchasing power to help us drive down costs with our publishing and other vendor partners, but also to elevate the voice and the need of those educators, whether they're in rural, urban, or suburban communities, working with kids in need across the country. One of the reasons I was so excited to join today is, not surprisingly, educators working in urban settings have a much higher representation in our network than educators working in rural communities. We are always excited to include and add more folks with different lenses and different perspectives. We know that the challenges and barriers to education are not the same in every community and setting, and really hope that we can connect with more of you in rural communities as a result of this conversation and others. I've included throughout this just a couple of quotes from rural librarians and educators who have used our rate and review system on the marketplace, just so you can see some of the things that folks are saying in terms of how they leverage our resources in rural communities. As a quick flyover of the First Book Marketplace, this is the award-winning nonprofit e-commerce site. It is available exclusively to members of the First Book Network, so those working in Title I schools or any program where at least 7 out of 10 kids are in need for financial or other reasons. We work with just about every major publisher in the US to provide low-cost books, 50 to 90% below retail, really with a focus on products and categories of books that are relevant to our network specifically. There's also a plethora of free resources, as well as the National Book Bank, which is the only national clearinghouse for publisher donated inventory in the country. So books on the National Book Bank, you can see the tab there on the blue ribbon, are completely free. They're donated by publishers and available to members of the First Book Network for just the cost of shipping and handling, which is about 65 cents per book. Wanted to highlight our stories, excuse me, for all projects specifically. It's our commitment, First Book's commitment to increasing access to diverse and culturally relevant books. It is our largest and fastest growing section on the First Book Marketplace. You can see here the categories span all types of cultures, backgrounds, heritages, because we know, like you do, that it's important for kids to see themselves in the books that they read, as well as the experiences of others, to help promote empathy and respect and understanding of differences. In addition to the Stories for All section, we have other sections that we've created specifically based on feedback from the network. So there's a STEM section, there's an early childhood section, character development, creating welcoming schools and communities, community engagement, all types of categories to help you navigate quickly. We know that our network is strapped for time, and whatever we can do to help you navigate by creating really user-friendly sections, as well as filters and category selections on the sidebar there, you can see. In addition to books, we've got a lot of other great activities and games available. There's also basic needs items, hygiene kits, socks, underwear, working with some of our partners who are working in foster care or child services. We know that these are sometimes barriers to education when kids feel like they can't show up to school or in after school programs or go to the library because they don't have what they need to take care of their personal hygiene, or they don't have a winter coat. So they can't really get out and about. So those are the types of things you'll see on the marketplace based on feedback from our network. One of the great benefits of joining the First Book Network, and we encourage anyone working in an eligible program to sign up with us. So every librarian, every teacher in a Title I school, every Head Start master teacher and paraprofessional, because it gives you access to our free resources, as well as funding provided by corporate partners to help subsidize or completely underwrite books and materials for members. So whether you're the person who holds the purse strings in your organization or not, when folks register, they have access to all of our free resources, as well as notification when we have promotional codes to help educators get books and materials for free. Wanted to just quickly highlight this initiative. It's one of our most recent initiatives based on feedback we got in survey and focus group, where educators told us, we want to talk about race. We know how important it is, but we don't know how. So Pizza Hut funded an initiative that includes a toolkit, a video series of educators talking about the importance of incorporating anti-bias and anti-racist teaching in their environments, as well as video clips modeling what that looks like in the classroom. And part of this initiative included funding from Pizza Hut so that educators could get $50 in free books when they went on and checked out this section. This is just a quick snapshot of the other types of resources that we've created based on feedback from the network, helping support kids experiencing trauma, supporting other social and emotional skills, promoting respect and empathy. And again, this is one of the benefits of joining, even if you don't have budget, because you can add your voice through surveys and focus groups and really help us focus on what's going to be most impactful in low-income communities. Partnering with First Book is easy, and there's lots of opportunities. Direct self-service is the marketplace. It's 24/7, but we can work with folks like we do Save the Children to provide gift credits. If you're funding multiple sites or providers, we can leverage your budget and split that up and give educator choice so that folks can use a gift credit and just go straight on the marketplace to make their own selections. We can handle complex logistics if you're shipping to multiple sites. Really anything that has to do with distribution and book access. We work with just about every major publisher in the US. Just a quick reminder, anybody can register. There are free books, there are low-cost books. Add your voice to the movement, take advantage of funding opportunities, and spread the good word.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Candace. We've heard—
My pleasure. Thank you for including me.
Yeah, absolutely. We've heard resounding positive feedback and lots of chatter in the chat box just now with different ideas for how to use the various resources that you've highlighted. So thank you. And for those that are interested, are welcome to reach out to Candace directly for more information. And you see her email address listed there on the screen. I'll also just provide a quick teaser that we will be collaborating with First Book for a special recognition for rural library network members during April's National Library Week. So everybody stay tuned for some more exciting information coming soon. All right. We'll now turn it over to Sarah Ostman from the American Library Association, commonly known as ALA, for some additional resource sharing, as well as highlighting some upcoming learning opportunities. So Sarah, welcome, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lesley. As Lesley said, I'm Sarah Ostman from the American Library Association, and thank you so much for having me here today. ALA, as some of you may know, is the oldest and largest library association in the world. We are a membership organization with more than 57,000 members representing all different kinds of libraries. I certainly encourage everybody to look into a membership with ALA. There are lots of benefits that I won't go into today, but you will find all that information at ala.org. Today, I'm going to focus on some opportunities that are available to everyone, regardless of whether or not you are an ALA member. I work in ALA's Public Programs Office, so my focus is on library programming. Everything from book clubs to science programming to traveling exhibits at your library. I recognize some names in the list of people that have been involved with our office, so feel free to jump in the chat and say hello and share what you've done with my office. So with that, let's get started and go to the next slide, please. So the ALA Public Programs Office distributes hundreds of grants and awards to libraries each year, and most of them are available to all libraries, regardless of whether you are an ALA member or not. You can check out our current opportunities at ala.org/apply, which is the page you see on the screen right now. I'll just give an example of two opportunities that we currently have available. The first is a special grant that we're actually distributing nearly $2 million in grants specifically to small and rural libraries. This is a conversation that a grant promotion that we're doing in collaboration with ARSL, who you'll be hearing from next. The deadline for this grant is tomorrow, so unfortunately we can't give you more notice. Hopefully some of you are already applying for that. But if you do act fast, you can certainly still get that application in by tomorrow night at midnight. We're also accepting applications for the Sarah Jafarian Award, which is a $5,000 award recognizing a library that has offered great humanities programming for kids in grades K through 8, and that is specifically for school libraries. Next slide, please. So if anyone has recognized this programming librarian, please go ahead and comment in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. Programming librarian is a labor of love for me. I'm the editor of the website, and this is a free website for everyone, any library worker who is involved in some aspect of library programming. You can visit this site for program ideas. We have hundreds of them under that program models tab at the top of the screen. Those are all submitted by librarians, library workers. So these are programs that have actually been carried out in libraries and that worked. Each of those program ideas gives full descriptions of how you can replicate the program in your own library, advice for doing it in various types of communities, attachments such as scripts or marketing materials that you're welcome to reuse. Really a ton of great information there. We also have blogs written by library workers and all of those grants that I mentioned that you find on our ala.org/apply website. We also promote on Programming Librarian. So if there's one website that you walk away with from this 10-minute spiel of mine, I hope it's programminglibrarian.org. One other thing to note is under that Learning tab, we have hundreds of webinars that are all pre-recorded. And I certainly encourage you to take advantage of those. Next slide, please. So this is an exciting one that's been taking up a whole lot of our time lately. Libraries Transforming Communities focus on small and rural libraries. This is the project that I referenced that we're working on with ARSL. It is an initiative to help library workers build on their role as community leaders and change agents. We recently completed several resources specifically for rural libraries on how to lead conversations. There is a Moodle course and a facilitation guide. Both are free on the website, ala.org/LTC. These resources have gotten really rave reviews from librarians who've used them. People who say, I thought I knew how to lead conversations. I've been leading book clubs for decades, and yet I learned a lot. So I highly encourage you to check those out. Like I said, both are free. It's a 6-part Moodle course, or you can just download the guide and print it out. Has lots of great information. Next slide, please. Great Stories Club. This is one of my absolute favorites. ALA has been doing the Great Stories Club for probably 15 years by now. It is a book club program designed specifically for underserved youth, but the book club resources are terrific and they're great for all ages and communities and types of libraries. So if you visit this website, you'll find that ALA has developed a series of themes. We've worked with librarians and humanities experts to develop these materials. So they're really well put together and they're on really good thought-provoking topics. One of our, for example, our topics are things like finding your voice, speaking truth to power, empathy, the cost of switching sides. And each of those themes, when you click into them, has book lists, discussion questions written out for you, even professionally designed marketing materials to help you promote the book club in your library, posters and bookmarks that you can give away as giveaways. Really terrific stuff. And you can also download a 50-page guide that we put together that gives you a whole introduction to the Great Stories Club series, has tips from librarians who've used the Great Stories Club resources in their libraries, and highlights from each of the 12 or so themes that we have available. Next slide, please. So smart investing at your library and thinking money for kids. I wanted to say just a couple words about this. These are resources that we created in partnership with the FINRA Foundation, which is the Financial Industry Regulatory Association. They are financial literacy resources. And if you visit this website, there are 4 interactive games that can teach financial literacy skills to young people. We were really looking for a way to make financial literacy fun. And so these are games with relatable characters, and you can follow them through their life and see, what they chose to study and what they did for a career. You can learn things about saving and spending. So I highly recommend checking these out. They're all 4 games are web-based. You're welcome to share them on your website, push them out on your social media, incorporate them into in-person programs if you're doing them right now. They are for your use. Next slide, please. So next up, as I mentioned, I'm from ALA's Public Programs Office, but I did want to include just a little bit from our Association for Library Service to Children, ALSC. So if you're not familiar with ALA, we are sort of an umbrella organization, and we also have a number of divisions for different library types and library service. And as you might guess, ALSC is our Children's Services division. So they have a number of wonderful book lists for free on their website. They are on numerous subjects, diversity, gender. They also bring out a new summer reading list. This year's will be out in, I want to say, May. So check that out. And those are very popular. So hopefully you find a lot to use there. And next slide. And also wanted to mention this other resource from ALSC, the Virtual Storytime Services Guide. It provides a lot of helpful tips for virtual story times and program planning, which I'm sure most of you have been doing a lot of since the pandemic began. So definitely check that out as well. And while you're at the ALSC website, they do have a number of great grants. Most of them are specific to members of ALSC. But they are worth investigating for sure. And next slide, please. And finally, just wanted to say a few notes about ALA's conference. Hopefully some of you have been to our conference in person before. We love it, it's great, it's massive. It's the first time I went to ALA annual, my jaw just dropped at the sheer scope of it. And there's so many great authors and programs to check out. It's absolutely wonderful. Sadly, we are still in a pandemic and we can't have an in-person conference this year, but we are doing a virtual conference, June 23rd to 29th. And we're very excited about that. And what's great about that is it makes it more accessible to people who might not be able to come to the live in-person program. So the virtual conference will include educational programming, a library marketplace with more than 500 exhibitors, and big name authors and speakers. The names of those speakers will be announced over the coming months, but recent speakers at other ALA virtual conferences have included Jill Biden, Ethan Hawke, Poet Laureate Joy Harjo, Ruby Bridges, and so many others. And registration for that is now open at that 2021.ala.annual.org. And I do want to invite Lesley to say a few words because I know that she has a special opportunity in mind for ALA Virtual.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Sarah. So we recognize just how valuable the ALA annual conference is. We've heard lots of positive remarks from those that have attended in the past, and we are excited to announce that we'll be providing scholarships to cover the registration costs for up to 5 Rural Library Network members. And this is for all network members, whether you're currently an ALA member or not. So be on the lookout again for more information after today's webinar for how to express your interest in attending this professional learning opportunity with ALA. We really hope that others can have that same jaw-dropping experience that Sarah had, so albeit virtually, right? But we're excited to offer up this scholarship opportunity, and we'll be sharing more information soon. So be on the lookout for that. And thank you, Sarah, for all of the great resources you shared. There's lots of questions and confirmation, validation in the chat box of just how amazing all of these resources that you've highlighted are. I especially love the resource sharing around libraries transforming communities. There's direct alignment with the goals of the Rural Library Network and really supporting librarians to be change agents in their communities. So even better that it's all free, right? The course, the guide, it's amazing. So thank you so much for highlighting those resources, and I hope everybody takes advantage of them.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So now, without further ado, over to our final speakers, a fantastic duo coming to us from the Association for Rural and Small Libraries, Kathy Zappitello and Kate Laughlin. So friends, over to you.
Well, thank you. I'll kick it off first. I'm Kathy Zappitello. I am board president for ARSL, the Association for Rural and Small Libraries, and I'm in Conneaut, Ohio. I'm an executive director of a small and rural library myself, so I'm right up here in Ohio's sharpest corner. So I'm also taking lots of notes. This is a great webinar. Thank you for including me. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the background of ARSL. Next slide. So we were formed in 1982. We've been around for a while. We were formed as part of a study about rural librarianship out of Clarion University. And so you can see from the slide, we've kind of, had some milestones along the way that we have, highlighted here. Becoming an ALA affiliate, we work very well with ALA. And so that's a great partnership that we really enjoy. But back in 2018, we really started to take a serious look at our organization because guess what? Rural and small is growing, right? We know that is, it's needed for advocacy, number one, to make sure that our small and rural voice is heard. And we can see how important it is, even when we partner with, Save Our Children and some of the other great organizations here. So it's super important. We had to get a little bit of legs underneath us, and we went through a complete organizational assessment. And from that, we hired our very first executive director, and I would like to introduce her now, Kate Laughlin.
Thank you. Just had to get to that unmute. Thank you, Kathy, for the introduction. Yeah, I'm Kate Laughlin. It is such an honor to be ARSL's first executive director, but I really want to point out that prior to that, the board of the Association for Rural and Small Libraries really carried this national organization over many years and only hired staff when it got to a point where it was really not sustainable. And to be able to do all the things they wanted to do, it required more support. But it is still a member organization. It's a member-run organization, and I serve it for the membership and for the board. Next slide, Jay. Just to let you know about a few highlights that are going on that would be relevant to folks who are attending this webinar. And Kathy, I have to agree, I took so many notes during First Book and even ALA, and we're regularly in communication with ALA, and I learned a couple new things. So thank you for that. Our annual conference is, knock wood, it's in Reno Sparks in October. And right now we're planning to hold it in person. We're planning all sorts of variations to it. We're not going to have the seats right next to each other in every room. We're going to spread the programming out and do some of those things. And that's all assuming it'll be safe by then. We will, just like last year, be ready to change course and move online. And as Sarah pointed out, with ALA's experience with taking their annual online, one of the big benefits, and ARSL experienced this last year as well, is the sheer number of people who have the opportunity to attend who had not been able to and maybe never could have attended an in-person conference. So ARSL has really taken that to heart. And in fact, that leads into our next item there, the train series. I do want to just say about the conference that the program request for proposals will be coming out this month. And we really count on the practitioners, the people actually working on the front lines and the advocates who work in support of our small and rural libraries to be those presenters at this national conference. So please be watching for that to come out. We will put it out to the membership, put out to our full network and our social media and everywhere else. ALA will probably even spread the word a little for us. So be thinking about what you could give back to the community, because it is entirely focused on small and rural libraries. The train series came out of that real recognition that we need to be able to provide more opportunities for those in small and rural libraries to attend online events and do continuing education and professional development that is completely targeted toward the issues of small and rural libraries. We have a lot of overlapping interest with libraries of all kinds, but as folks who work in small and rural libraries who are attending today know, there are some very unique challenges in the small and rurals that just aren't faced by many of our urban or even suburban libraries. So the training resources and informational networking series is monthly. And it goes back and forth between informal roundtables that are free for all members to attend, and they are facilitated by members. And then we also have formal workshops, which we welcome non-members to attend as well. And there'll generally be a fairly nominal fee with that, very discounted for members. And then we do have membership. So it is a member organization for individuals and organizations, but something that our board and really all our leadership take to heart, and we certainly do at the ARSL office, is that we work in support of small and rural libraries, period. We advocate for small and rural libraries, period, just like ALA does. It's great if you're a member that you get a little bit more of the bells and whistles of being a member and to show your support for the organization, but we don't only serve and support our members. We serve and support the small and rural library community. I just want to make that very clear. But please do have a look at some point at the adjoining opportunities, if you would. Most people who are familiar with ARSL are going to tell you their favorite thing about ARSL is one of two things, or maybe it's a tie. It's our annual conference and it's our member listserv. The member listserv is very active. I mean, very active. You're going to want to set up your filtering for it. But it is a magical, beautiful thing. The community communicates very regularly with each other. And whether somebody is reaching out to say, how do you solve this problem? Or how do you reach this goal? Or somebody else is saying, hey, I just found this great opportunity, this great resource. I want you guys to know about it too. They troubleshoot, they problem solve, they commiserate, they champion each other. It's just a wonderful community. So do consider that. And then I'm going to ask my colleague, Kathy, to tell us a little about something that we're especially excited and proud about, thanks to the IMLS grant we received recently or last year.
Yeah, you know, I just couldn't even wait to talk. You know, I'm like waiting for you to finish because this is the most exciting thing that we have to talk about. It's a little late for you folks that are tuning in today to apply, but we just finished accepting applications for our very first leadership institute, outstanding in their field. So we are taking 30 as our cohort group through an 18-month leadership training. And we're hoping to do this again. So please, you know, there will be opportunity in the future. We had over 180 applicants for this, and it was a pretty robust application process. So we are so thrilled with the numbers, but you know, just as I had mentioned about how we began and how we grew and kind of where we are now, we feel the same way about leadership. You know, we want to see leadership at many different levels of the organization. And that means restructuring our board. That means restructuring kind of the way that we look at what we are doing and how we're pushing out that information and who can help us along the way. So that's what we really like to do. We'd like to build 30 leaders, you know, every 18 months to push more and more information out. Another way, Kate, that I really wanted to make sure everybody realized too, with our restructuring, we have regional representation now on our board. And I think that's really an important thing to highlight. So if you can go to our website after today's webinar, arsl.org, when you look at the board list, you have a regional representative. And because we know that sometimes the most exciting opportunities, some of that work that's being done that's going to grow into that next huge grant opportunity, that starts regionally, right? That starts sometimes with a smaller group. And sometimes your needs look different depending on where you are in the country and what you're experiencing. So reach out to your regional representative and ask them for information on whatever it is that we talked about today. They'd be more than happy to help you. So that's we just want to thank you for the time today and being included in this really important conversation.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. It's wonderful when you have such nice alignment. And I feel like we had that today across all of our presentations. So thank you so much, Kathy and Kate. Specifically, I think we're sharing that goal around supporting libraries and ultimately children and families across rural communities. I also really appreciate, Kathy, your plug for advocacy, raising the voices of rural, and our collective voice, I feel, is so powerful to really advocate for the needs of rural children, families, and communities. So thank you so much. It was great to hear from both of you. A final just kudos to all of our presenters, Candace, Sarah, Kathy, Kate. Excellent resources that were shared today and all aligned around supporting children's educational success. So thank you so very much. We will now move into the Q&A portion of our conversation. We'll have about 10 minutes where folks can ask questions of our presenters and share ideas where we might want to dig in a little bit deeper. So you're welcome to put those questions into the Q&A. As I mentioned earlier, there is a specific Q&A tool on your toolbar down below by the chat box, or if you want to send those questions directly to panelists, wherever you put them, we will find them and we will address them as best we can. I will say, as is typical with this group, we've also had a lot of questions already coming through, which I love because it shows just how engaged everyone is, how eager everyone is to connect. So thank you for that. We'll get to as many questions as we can, so keep them coming. And we'll start, Candace, with a question for you. Ebooks seem to be quite the buzz lately with everyone living in this virtual world. Can you talk a little bit about the ebook collections that are available through First Book?
Sure. We actually have partnered with the New York Public Library several years ago during the Obama administration to develop the open ebooks platform. I'm overstating that. We didn't develop it, we distribute it. It is a library of thousands of titles for multiple age groups. It's completely free through the marketplace, as is registration. I saw that question in the Q&A. So signing up with First Book is completely free, no obligation, just connects you to our resources. But the open ebooks platform can be found on the First Book marketplace in our digital resources section. You can request up to, I think, 500 codes. So the way it works is you check out, and then immediately in your verification, you get a list of unique codes, and those codes you can distribute to the families and kids that you reach. They can download the app on their smartphone and then have access to those thousands and thousands of titles.
Amazing. Thank you, Candace. And while you're off mute, a couple other questions for you specifically. Would it be best to sign up for the marketplace by library system or by individual branch? Do you have thoughts there?
That's a great question. I don't know that it is, I don't know that it makes a significant difference either way. Yeah, I think whatever you're most comfortable with, the more, if you sign up with your individual branch, then if there are opportunities specifically in your community, it helps us pinpoint, but either is fine.
Great, thank you. And Sarah, a question for you about the grant opportunity that's due tomorrow. Does this happen to be an annual opportunity? Is this something that folks should mark their calendars for now, or is this a one-time opportunity? Any insights there?
Great question. As of now, it is a one-time opportunity that was sort of split into 2 rounds. And unfortunately, this is the second of the 2 rounds. So we are giving away 650 grants at this point. Once this phase is over, all of our opportunities are grant funded. So we are going to go out and try to seek more funding for more similar opportunities. So the best thing to do is sign up for our newsletter. You can go to that Programming Librarian website and click About and sign up for a newsletter. I'll also put a direct link in the chat when I'm done speaking. But then you will be informed about all the new opportunities as they come out. We certainly would love to do it again.
And Lesley, can I just say something? I put it in the chat. My library applied for this grant, and I know the deadline's tomorrow, but it is a fairly simple grant. I assure you, just go right now, go apply, have that community conversation. It's easy. Please don't let that deadline scare you.
Awesome. And I have a feeling that folks have been thinking in that way for quite some time now, so they might have some ideas that are ready to just be put down on paper to submit. That could be great. You might have a jump start on it. All right, Kathy, Kate, either of you here talking about the conference in Reno. Fingers crossed again. You had mentioned a call for proposals coming soon. Do you have a sense of the types of proposals or types of sessions you might be looking to spotlight this year?
I can tell you that from attending the planning committees, that there's a real focus on how to include those who seem to be less included within the various communities. EDI efforts, thank goodness, are on the rise in our various organizations, and that goes for in small and rural libraries as well. But sometimes that can be a more challenging conversation depending on the situation within the community. So that is an area that the committee is taking very seriously, not just for programming, but in all aspects of how we put our conferences together. The other one is just frankly not very sexy, but we're coming out of a pandemic by then, and we all know there already are such major ripples from that, and some things it may change forever, and we may see some funding and staffing challenges for a while. We already know in small and rural libraries that we have to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of creative approaches with little or no money. And I anticipate there'll only be an increase in that for a little while. So that is another focus, is how do we continue to provide really creative, relevant services for our communities when we're doing it maybe with a little bit less or with a few more obstacles in front of us.
Great, thank you. And while you're speaking, Kate, if you could also just remind everyone, there was some interest about the train series. How do folks sign up, participate in that particular opportunity?
Sure. Well, you can go to the ARSL website, arsl.org, and there is up in the menu, there's a train page. And the one that is for March, and registration is going to be launching next week, I believe, is trauma-informed services within the library. You know, speaking of coming out of the pandemic, this was already a very big topic. You know, those who have heard or read about doing your ACEs score, it ties into that kind of work. And we know that there's a lot of trauma that's been going on through the last year. So we only expect this topic to be on the rise. So that's really exciting. You can register online. If you're a member, there'll be quite a significant discount, but it's still very reasonably priced for all members of the community. And then I do want to point out that every other month we make those roundtables informal around a certain subject area so that there can be just a full community conversation that's facilitated. And that is there's never any charge for our members for those.
Great, that's really good to know. Thank you for that, Kate. All right, I'll hold space here for just another little bit. If there are other questions that folks have, you're welcome to type those in the chat box or into the Q&A. I think we've got most of them at this point.
Lesley, can I answer one that I see from Michelle Smith about the
sure.
entities?
Yeah.
Michelle, thanks for asking. The marketplace is, you know, one of the ways that First Book is able to provide such deep discounts is through our relationships with publishers. Unlike a retail establishment that might sell books based on consignment where they can be returned to the publishers, everything that we provide on the marketplace is purchased non-returnable, which means using our small but mighty nonprofit budget, sometimes we're not able to, you know, purchase as many copies of titles, no matter how much we know they're popular, as we'd like to. So that's one of the large or one of the special opportunities that my team works with specifically. We can work with you to curate large scale distributions, at least 100 copies per title and 500 books total. But we can go directly to the publishers, leverage our discounts, and then order that way. So you don't have to be limited by the marketplace. And to that end, because we're purchasing these books out of our own pocket, we also aren't allowed or aren't able to make every book that we can access available through the marketplace. So as long as we have a relationship with the publisher, if you're building a collection that involves a title that isn't available on the marketplace, please do reach out, because if you're ordering large quantities, we can still order those titles from publishers as long as First Book has a relationship with them.
Great, thank you, Candace. That's helpful context. And then one last question. Do you happen to know if First Book has books that are translated in Haitian Creole?
We don't at this time, but that's one of the most common questions we get. Right now, our language diversity is pretty restricted to Spanish, English, either Spanish language or bilingual. Part of the issue is pricing, because that's so crucial to our model. Our mission is based on access through pricing, and we've just not been able to find large scale publishers that are able to offer the deep discounts that we'd like to provide our network. But thank you for asking the question. I hope you're registered. I hope you'll sign up so that you can add your voice and, you know, continue to elevate that, so that we can continue to try to track those resources down for you.
Great, thank you. All right, well, thank you everyone, presenters for your responses, for your insights, also our participants for your great questions. I will just note there are a couple prompts in the chat box. So participants, if you have other resources that you'd like to highlight or share, other specific funding opportunities that you've previously secured that you want to highlight, please feel free to share those with your fellow network members in the chat box. You're welcome to add your contributions there. And we will now close out today's conversation with a quick review of upcoming opportunities. So Jay, if we can go back to the screen share. We'll also just confirm while we're getting to the next slide that we will be posting the recording of the webinar on the website. So all of the archived webinars are available for viewing later. And we have put that link in the chat box if you need it, and can also be sure that we share that out as a follow-up. So a couple upcoming events. First, as we mentioned, National Library Week is coming up in early April, and we're excited, as we kind of foreshadowed earlier. We'll have some exciting news coming soon in partnership with First Book to celebrate this annual recognition week of libraries and the integral role that you all play as practitioners and leaders across your communities. So stay tuned there. Also, April 26th to the 30th, we've highlighted this a few times now, but just want to flag that the Rural College Access and Success Summit is coming up. There is going to be a special track for libraries that will be offered. And so you'll see more information coming via email about this upcoming summit opportunity if you aren't already registered. May 3rd, this will be our standing Rural Library Network monthly webinar, and we'll be focusing on all things summer. Summer is quickly approaching. It seems strange to say that it's only March, but summer is quickly approaching. So we'll be sharing best practices, ideas, and other opportunities to support children's education and needs throughout the summer months. So if you have specific topics related to summer that you're going to be most interested in hearing about on our webinar, you are welcome to note those in the chat box now, and we'll be sure we have a really robust round of presenters to engage in that conversation. And then in June, in addition to our standard June network webinar opportunity, as you heard from Sarah, our ALA colleague, we want to encourage the learning opportunity of the ALA annual conference that will be held virtually. And as mentioned, we will be providing a handful of scholarships to interested Rural Library Network members. So more information coming there as well. Lots of information today, lots of exciting resources, lots of exciting upcoming events. And as always, we are open to your feedback. This is our collective network. We want to hear input from all of you as network members about the topics for our monthly webinars that will be of most interest and value to you. We also want to have opportunities to highlight you all as network members. So if you have ideas, please send those along now in the chat box, or reach out afterwards. Of course, we love hearing from all of you. So thank you everyone for a fantastic March webinar. We hope you have a great rest of the month, and we will connect again in April during the Rural College Access and Success Summit. So be on the lookout for important information following up with some email communication. So thank you so much.